Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Fans, are you ready to brave the wild with me, your host, Paladino Joey? Brave the Wild's available on the sportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. Great to have you on board once again. Sorry I wasn't available last week, just not feeling my best and just kind of busy, that type of thing, and barely got this one started here, so bear with me, ready to rock and roll, talk some hockey. Gonna kind of brush things a little bit with a broad stroke because there's kind of too many games to review per se in detail. It's just kind of in general. We're going to talk some more about the young prospects and such, and maybe even throw in a little Gopher conversation here and there. Yeah, it's going to be a fun show in general here. Ultimately, what an up and down crazy week, but the Wild at the end of the day, as the dust clears, are 1 point ahead of the Colorado Avalanche for the 8th spot in the Western Conference playoffs. Yeah, it's good to at least be in that position. It's certainly not living up to the expectations. There's no way this team is going to live up to our expectations for this season. But as we like to say, infamously, it is what it is, right? I mean, it is what it is. The state of this team right now at the head coaching position, I like what Torchetti has been doing. I'm glad that he scratched Thomas Vanek the past 3 games. I think it's about time. A lot of people out there are like, well, why is everybody turning on Thomas Vanek now after the strong start he had at the beginning of the season? It's kind of a sugar high, a little bit. Did you really think it was going to last? Did you really think Mikko Koivu's strong start was going to last? Did you think Suter's strong start was going to last? It seemed too good to be true. And when something appears to be too good to be true, it probably is, right? That's one of the sayings. I kind of butchered it, but you get the idea, kind of got the gist of it there. Do you really think Koivu, Suter, and Vanek are the 3 best players on this team? I mean, no. Koivu always has his ups and downs. Suter always has his ups and downs, and defensively as well. Vanek, he has the talent to score, but the effort sometimes is there and sometimes it's not. It's kind of like sending a message, and Torchetti is at a point in his coaching career, so to speak, where he doesn't give a damn about feelings. You don't need to be all worried about the guy's feelings, where Mike Yeo is so worried about, he might lose the team if he sits Vanek. Torchetti's at a stage, hey, he's trying to win some hockey games, and if you're not going to give a positive, strong effort out there, the hell with you. And that's pretty much Torchetti's thinking, I believe, without really being that harsh. But you get the idea. Jordan Schrader's seen some significant action out there. Only 2 points on the season, 1 goal, 1 assist. He finally got his first assist the other night. But he's got the quickness, the speed. I think he's talented enough to be an NHL player, at least on the 4th line. I mean, I like Jordan Schrader. There's several players in the Wild organization that are at least 4th liners, but let's try to get some top liners in here. That would be nice. There's talk about hopefully going after that in the offseason. Thomas Vanek may have played his last game for the Wild for all we know. He might end up getting bought out in the offseason, as it won't affect the cap as much as it would buying out Pominville. You're looking at over $5 million a year in the remaining seasons, remaining as cap hits if Jason Pominville's bought out, and it'd probably be a pretty expensive buyout with all the years left in the contract. Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, that's unthinkable. You can't buy those contracts out. Are you crazy? And, well, you got to hope Zach Parise one of these days is going to come out of the funk that he's been in, like a career-long funk. I don't understand. His longest funk of his career, I got to say. He's had injuries here and there, and that's just kind of Parise. He plays hard. Things happen. Gets hitting the ankle with the puck, stuff like that, hitting the face of the stick. Things happen to a guy that plays as hard as Zach Parise. But he's been different, significantly different since sometime around January or so, where you're kind of wondering what's going on with this guy. Is he the same player? Is he injured? What the hell is going on? The mysterious upper body injury. You know how they like to say. My guess would be it's something to do with a rib or a shoulder, and that kind of thing will screw up your mechanics as a player. Parisi had a gimme in the Chicago Blackhawks game the other night, Sunday, March the 20th. A gimme, and he missed the net. Just missed it. It would have ended the game in overtime. The Wild winning in overtime, which happens about as often as the Vikings win the Super Bowl. Maybe. Okay, maybe not quite that rare. But just about. It's been a pathetic run when it comes to the overtime for the Wild. I'll run through the scores here at least, just to kind of get caught up. We left off with getting hammered by the St. Louis Blues, a 4-2 game, Sunday, March the 6th. That was last time around. That was the last game we talked about. Then the Wild ended up losing a very quiet game against the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, what a surprise. He scored one of the goals, as I was predicted, because the guy's the next Gretzky, I guess. I mean, he's unbelievable. He's at least the next Patrick Kane, that's for sure, and he might end up being better than him. He just might, and that's not as crazy a statement as it may have sounded maybe a year ago or so. The guy just has talent. Kemper was pretty damn good in that game, but Connor McDavid put the puck past Kemper's shoulder, and that was all she wrote. 2-1 loss to the Edmonton Oilers at the Xcel Energy Center. The Wild refused to win at home. Saturday, March the 12th, the Wild beat the hell out of a Montreal Canadian team that was really... That's banged up, injured, all that. You know, the chemistry's no good. Obviously, Carey Price has been out since palm trees were in the Arctic. All that kind of stuff. He's been out for a while. Ottawa, Craig Anderson was out for a while, and then he came back and played pretty well. The Wild lose that one in overtime, 3-2. Just an unbelievable loss there as the Wild give up a goal at the last second against the Ottawa Senators. Went past Dubnyk there. Ultimately, in the last couple minutes, a defensive breakdown by Parisi. Zach Parise, just, I don't know, defensively he's not been good. Offensively, he can't find the net. Don't know. 3-2 loss in overtime by Ottawa. A pretty easy goal scored in overtime by the Ottawa Senators. That Montreal game was a lot of fun. I got to say, though, on Saturday, March the 12th, the Ottawa game was Tuesday, March the 15th. Granlund actually got 2 goals in that Montreal game, which is incredible. And neither one of them were, the most amazing part was neither one of them were empty netters, but Haula was able to get double-digit goals for the first time in his career with an empty netter. And that son of a gun is a hockey player. Erik Haula can play. I just love him right now. And even Granlund's been playing very well. Thomas Vanek, maybe his final assist of the season on Granny's second goal, a power play ditty for Mikael Granlund, 10th goal of the season, or should we call him Granlund? Okay, I'll just stop it. Nino Niederreiter has been playing very, very well as well. Erik Haula, Nino Niederreiter, just what a nice combination right there. And you had Pominville with them until he got hurt, unfortunately. What a nice line that was together, but at least Haula and Niederreiter are playing together still. Very strong line in that case. Thursday, March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I think the Wild were drunk. I'm sorry. I mean, was it too much Guinness? What the hell happened here? Did you drink too much creme de menthe? You know, all that ultra green stuff. You know what I'm saying? What the hell was this? Yeah, 7-4 to the New Jersey Devils. Like, seriously, like, what the hell? Did you show up? Or I can't really answer this one. Sorry, that's bullshit. 7-4 to the Devils in the Wild. Oh, they saved face with a couple goals in the third period there. You know, we scored a couple goals there. So got to save a little face, but it's an unacceptable game for the Wild there. Nino Niederreiter early on was able to get his 17th goal of the year. Spurgeon 8th power play goal, or 8th goal of the season. The Wild strong on the power play at least. Got a couple power play goals in the game, but ultimately 7-4. Just a shellacking. The Wild tried as they might to stay in the game, but Dubnyk pulled after the third goal in the first period. He benched Dubnyk, and then Kemper was even worse. I mean, Kemper was worse. Like, he sucked. He just put the puck on net, he scores. Yeah, shoot it high, shoot it low, whatever. Shoot it low on Dubnyk, shoot it high on Kemper. Bam, there you go. The Devils were, they stuck the pitchfork in the Wild in this one, eh? I mean, I'm sorry, but I know that's lame, but I had to say it. Excuse me. What's lame is the fact that the Wild lost 7-4 to the New Jersey Devils. That's what's lame. It was pathetic. Terrible defense. Complete breakdown all over the place. Bad goaltending. You name it. You just name it, man. again, trying not to cough to death like I always do. It's like my throat just gets dry when I get behind the mic. I'm sorry, that's bullcrap, but I suppose that's why they have dump buttons in professional radio and all that good stuff. But you get the idea. I have my own little dump button here, right? Because I'm not like in a multi-million-dollar studio or anything, as you could probably guess. But then the Wild start putting the clamps down, and Devan Dubnyk suddenly an all-star goalie again. Well, all right. Back-to-back shootout victories for the Wild? Hey, we'll take it. The Wild beat Carolina 3-2 in a shootout. Not the most exciting game ever, but we won a game at XL Energy Center. We won a game at XL Energy Center. I can't believe it. Yes, hallelujah. We got the job done. We won in the shootout, overtime period. It's a miracle. Woohoo! March 19th, 3-2 victory, or 2-2 overtime, and then the third goal is you get the idea of David Jones, who's been nice. He's been a nice little addition to that fourth line. David Jones. I like him. I like David Jones. Jarrett Stoll, I got to think he's finished after this season. I think he's done. He's not terrible or anything, but he's barely in the NHL at this stage as a fourth line center. Just barely. I mean, you barely know he's even out there. At most, he just hits a couple guys, and he's decent at hanging on to the puck, and he's an okay wall guy. Yay. That's about it. David Jones can still score a bit, though, and that's what he used to do early in his career. Jason Zucker with an ultra-rare goal on that. That is the top line. Jason Zucker going from the third to the top line. He's been all over the place. Zucker was scratched several games there with Vanek. Remember that? Koivu and Coyle assisting there. Guys that have quieted down a bit, like Koivu is still he's leading the team in scoring with 51 points, which is nothing in the NHL. 51 points, come on. But Coyle finally getting his 40th point over the course of the last 2 weeks. Zucker finally getting something going here, scoring a goal early in that third period, keeping the Wild in it, but Jordan Staal scared us a bit. Yeah, it's like, oh, great, another late goal. Watch Carolina skate out of here with a victory. And the Carolina, I almost called them the Panthers again. The Carolina Hurricanes, they're not bad, but that Eastern Conference is tough at the bottom there. The West is insanely tough at the top. It's very deep at the top. But then at the bottom, it's not so bad, and that's why the Wild are in there. Colorado's not very stiff competition, but then again, 7th seed on. The hell with that. We're not going to catch Nashville. We're just not. It just ain't going to happen, one of those type of deals. But over in the East, I mean, Carolina's got about the same record as us, if you can believe it. If you can believe it. They've improved dramatically, but they have no chance of making the postseason. At least it's very unlikely. Chicago Blackhawks, pardon me, I can't even hear this guy. Sunday, March the 20th, back-to-back against the Blackhawks. That spells loss, right? Especially in Chicago? No? Dubnyk was just unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable. Another shootout victory for the Wild. Similar situation in the sense. The Wild ended up scoring 2 goals. Luckily, the Wild hanging in there. All the scoring was in the second period. It was mostly grinded out after that. Grinded out. Nice stops by Devan Dubnyk. And that Darling is pretty good, too, over there. He's that Scott Darling for the Chicago Blackhawks. He's pretty damn good. It doesn't matter who's in net with the Blackhawks and the Wild. It seems like they do a good job. But then again, Corey Crawford usually gets his ass kicked by the Wild in the regular season. Postseason, we're not going to talk about that. We're just not. That's the past. We're not going to talk about it. No. The Wild 4-0 against the Blackhawks over the course of the season. The Blackhawks did pick up their first point against the Minnesota Wild in the regular season, Sunday the 3rd to the 20th. That was their first point against the Wild after 4 bleeping games. That's insane. Wrap up the season series next Tuesday, the 29th. Rock and roll right there. Pardon me. There we go. That was not supposed to be there, but it's there. Sorry. Wild have a chance to go 5-0 against the Blackhawks. I can't believe it. Absolutely nuts, isn't it? Jiminy Christmas. I just can't believe it. Fun game for the Wild. Strong performance overall. Mikhail Granlund's struggling on the faceoff. Koivu was not that good in the faceoff either. Stoll is like a non-factor. I don't know why I'm even getting into that, but overall, Erik Haula, man, just an unbelievable player. And what a nice goal he scored in the game, too. Oh, pardon me, that's the next... I'm going all over the place. Yeah, it was a nice goal, ultimately. Nito Niederreiter setting him up. So Fontaine basically has replaced Pominville on that third line at this point as the Lions continue to shuffle all over the place. for so many reasons. Guys getting healthy scratch, guys getting hurt, this, that. We need to switch this, change that, this type of thing. Niederreiter netting his 18th. Haula and Niederreiter, just what more can you say? Unbelievable. Fantastic. The lines changed during the course of this one. Schrader, there you go. There's your first assist of the season for Jordan Schrader, a guy who's clearly the best player in the Iowa Wild. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Performance-wise, Jordan Schrader is the king of the Iowa Wild. But I think he's NHL ready. I think he's certainly not living up to that first round 22nd overall pick back in 2009. But hey, a talented guy. He was an awesome player on the Gophers. But I think he's at least a fourth-line player in this league. He shows grit, you can say, for a small guy, and his speed is incredible. Maybe he could still develop into a scorer like Erik Haula ultimately has really been developing into. The possibility exists. And it's funny how many Gophers are in the system, and they're in the system and on the roster in the NHL. You got so many of them. I mean, even Vanek, but yeah, Vanek. Yeah, Vanek. You got Richard Panik also. I love that. Scoring in the second period, tying things up. And it's just your heart just sank when the Blackhawks tied things up at the end of that second period. A very action-filled second period, but Dubnyk slammed the door on those Blackhawks the entire third period. Unfortunately, Scott Darling did the same against the Wild, as the Wild actually led the game in shot attempts and all that. But ultimately, it wasn't meant to be in the shootout for the Blackhawks. Hallelujah. As the Blackhawks unable to score a single time, and Coyle ultimately the hero with a very nice goal early on in that shootout. The first attempt by the Wild, and it was all the Wild needed, as Doobie stopped all three attempts by Taves, Patrick Kane, and Panarin. Unbelievable. Just a very, very fun finish for the Wild. I'm not excited about the Wild versus the Blackhawks in the postseason because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And fool me thrice, yikes. You know, I mean, I'm not going to get fooled 3 times. Are you crazy? It was already shame on me last year, right? Hell with that. I'm not fooled, man. Fool me thrice, yikes. Tuesday, March 22nd, put the clamps down. Devan Dubnyk was the freaking bomb. After getting shelled against that New Jersey Devils, you figured, Dubnyk, he's not the same guy. Why'd we sign him to this 6-year contract? What the hell were we thinking? You get all excited about that strong finish, but you know that's not who he is ultimately. But hopefully he can be a decent goalie. And you know what? He is a decent goalie most of the time. He just gets his ass kicked on occasion. But I suppose that happens to all goalies. Even Jonathan Quick gets his ass kicked at times. Dubnyk was just awesome in this one. And Erik Haula, what a swipe. What a nice pass by Charlie Coyle from behind the net. Just a swipe, kind of a backhand type of shot. 12th goal of the year. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's just, Erik Haula's a stud now, man. 12th goal of the season. He's almost got 30 points already. Erik Haula with 30 points almost. I mean, that's freaking awesome. And you think ultimately in the grand scheme of things, that isn't that big a deal. But when you consider in the short amount of time it's been that Erik Haula's been scoring all these points, you can tell this guy's going to be a nice player in this league. And you knew it 2 years ago. You're just wondering what the hell happened last year. It was just some kind of stupid personal pissing battle between him and Mike Yeo, apparently. And then you bring in Torch, who takes him aside and said, man, you could be a stud if you do this, this, and this. Well, he's doing this, this, and this. I mean, just look at him. Just unbelievable play by Erik Haula. Might be the top center on the team right now. Ultimately, at minimum, a second or third line center for the Wild long term. I am thrilled to have him, and you should be too. Koivu right now the number 1 center on the Wild because Granlund refused to take that role this year. 17th goal of the year in the second period, making it 2-0. Freaking awesome right there. Suter and Parise. Those are all the names on the power play. All the same guys. And, you know, my buddy and brother-in-law, Chance Kostick, his father, David Kostick, was telling me about Ryan Suter and all that on the power play. And I agree with him fully. Like, why is he still on the power play when he's got no shot? He's got a soft shot. It doesn't scare anybody. Why not put at least Dumba out there? He's got a stronger shot. And Dumba does get out there, but not as much as Suter. It's like Suter's constantly on the power play. And yeah, I agree. I just figured I'd give them that shout out and say, hey, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Why not mention it? Yeah, I mean, get the shot. They need a stronger shot on the power play. And having Ryan Suter out there as long as the Wild have is disappointing. But at least he was able to get an assist here, putting the puck on net, so it helps. Parise, managing to get an assist, helping Koivu out there. 17th goal of the season for Koivu. Tyler Toffoli breaking up that shutout by Devan Dubnyk, but then was unbelievable down the stretch, just sprawling after loose pucks that the Wild couldn't clear out of the zone or out of the crease. It was just unbelievable what Devan Dubnyk was able to do in this game, and he was clearly the number one star of the game for the Wild. Absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, I can't give him the Mike Modano award. I can't. He'll get an honorable mention, but that performance against New Jersey was garbage. But overall, Dubnyk, I gotta tell you, outside of that New Jersey game, he's been pretty damn good. Devan Dubnyk's been pretty damn good, and he's had minimal rest, to be quite honest. I was very disheartened by Darcy Kemper's performance in Dubnyk's relief. I mean, maybe the Wild might have tied that game up. They managed to score 4 goals, believe it or not, against Schneider of the Devils there. Dubnyk facing 39 shots by this Kings team, who's been playing fantastic. They've managed to maintain the division lead over the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, which I think is incredible, considering what a surge the Anaheim Ducks were on the last month or two. I mean, they've been unbelievable, like Stanley Cup good. And look at the Kings. They maintained the lead. And the Wild have been very successful against the Kings this year. In fact, well, they lost in overtime way back on October 16th. Overtime, 2-1 loss. We got 1 point out of it. You shut them out, 3-0. Darcy Kemper, absolutely awesome in LA, once again like he was years ago. And then in Minnesota, the Wild win the season series 2-1 with a 2-1 victory. Go figure. 3 goals scored in every single game. That's another kind of interesting, creepy thing. That's weird. 3 goals scored total in each game. I don't know why, but that's just how it turned out. I fear the Kings, though, in the playoffs. If the Wild were to face them, I think they're just like the Blackhawks. You know, they're a completely different team when it comes to the playoffs. But the Wild used to never, and I mean never, beat the Kings in the postseason. But they were able to win the season series. So that's good. That's a positive, and it keeps the Wild in playoff contention. And that's fantastic. And I think the Wild absolutely are the better team when it comes to the Wild versus the Colorado Avalanche. So before we sign off here on the first segment and then get into the second segment preview and then talk about the prospects out there, including Gopher prospects and all that, Gophers that are Wild prospects, you get the idea. Let's pass out some awards here. Mike Modano Award is going to go to the number one center of the Wild. That guy's name is Erik Haula, the former leading scorer of the Minnesota Gophers and the former leading scorer of the Iowa Wild. And he's been the leading scorer of the Minnesota Wild of late, but obviously not for the season. But he's going to get another Mike Modano Award. Just an absolutely outstanding performance, pardon that. Outstanding performance by Erik Haula. The James Shepard Memorial, I'm sorry, Zach. I got to give it to you again. And I got to. I don't know if him and Torchetti are getting along or what the hell's the deal. Apparently him and Yo had some serious differences. Zach Parise, he's just a different guy right now. It sounds like there's some other issues going on, according to Ryan Suter, that obviously are under the rug. We can't really get into it. I don't know what they are, so how can I get into it? Partially, I could speculate there's a serious nagging injury, I think, that's going on, maybe shoulder or rib. That's what I would guess. Rib can change the motion of your shot. Shoulder can destroy the motion of your shot. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's a shoulder injury that's really bleeping the guy up. That's my guess. That's my speculation. As for personal things, none of my business. I don't know. But maybe there's some personal stuff going on too. Had his father die in the last year. That's not good. Maybe he's going through depression. I don't know. But then again, see, here I go. Now I'm speculating when I said I wouldn't. So there I go. That's what I get for getting behind the microphone, right? That's what we do. We just babble on, don't we? But Zach is going to get the James Shepard Memorial. I have to give it to you, man. I'm sorry. What do you want me to give it to? Nate Prosser? Darcy Kemper played in one game. He sucked. He definitely gets a honorable mention for the James Shepard Memorial. And an honorable mention for the Mike Modano Award is going to be Devan Dubnyk, because overall his performance outside of that blasted New Jersey game, he's been pretty good, and he's kept the Wild in playoff contention. So, despite being inconsistent a bit, Mr. Devan Dubnyk, you've been pretty strong overall. So that's good. At least he looks like a starting goalie out there, and there's no doubt about it. So with that, here we go. We're out of here for segment 1. Segment 2 coming right up. are back here on Brave the Wild. Preview segment, and of course we're going to talk about the prospects and such. A little NCAA hockey tournament, just a little teeny bit, considering there's some prospects in there. I mean, why not? Wild prospects. Why not enjoy it a little bit, right? Even though the Golden Ophers didn't make it. They were Opher this year in the NCAA tournament. It sucks. I'll get back to that shortly. Minnesota Wild host the Calgary Flames, and guess who's going to be in net Thursday, March the 24th? That'd be Nicholas Backstrom. Yeah, Nicholas Backstrom's going to be the goalie. He's played one game for the Flames. He did play in net, and he gave up only one goal in that game. Very strong performance against the Montreal Canadiens. Now, let's not forget that Devan Dubnyk only gave up one goal against the Montreal Canadiens also. So, yeah, I don't mean to cheapen what Backstrom did, but at the same time, it was Montreal. They weren't that good. The Wild have only played one game against the Flames this year so far. Strange. A 5-3 performance. They got kind of wild and crazy in the Saddle Dome back on the February the 17th. That was during Torchetti's first couple games there. And the Wild were scoring like crazy, but were a little bit too wide open. The defensive clamps have been clamped the past few the past few weeks here, so a little bit different now. Calgary Flames out of playoff contention. They're under 500 and all that. Unfortunately, only 68 points on the season, so that's pretty much it for them. So Backstrom attempting to play spoiler for the Wild here, and he's going to give his damnedest. I gotta hope the Wild can beat this team. I gotta hope and pray that the Wild can beat this team tonight. They have some nice scorers, though. They have some nice young talent. I think this Flames team is going to emerge the next couple of years. They have some veterans also. This Johnny Gaudreau, though, he's really come around. 71 points in the season, 27 goals. The Wild would kill to have a guy like that right now, born in 93. He was a fourth-round pick in 2011. Fourth-rounder. I mean, how many of these are on... Let's ask the quick question. How many of these type of guys are on Doug Riseborough's resume? Exactly. How many of these are on Chuck Fletcher's resume, to be quite honest? Exactly. Come on. It's one thing you can get a hit in the first round, but I mean, for the most part, neither one of our GMs have even hit one of these type of guys in the first round. Gaborik, sure, okay, once. The very first draft in the history of the franchise. That's it. Sean Monahan has also been playing very well. TJ Brody's strong. Monahan's even younger, first-round pick, 6th overall by the Flames 2 years ago, 55 points in the year, 26 goals, 29 assists, top-line center for the Calgary Flames. You're telling me this team doesn't have a future in this league? I mean, they also got Nicholas Backstrom in that, right? Just like the whole Mike Vernon thing. Remember I talked about that last show. Lots of young talent on this team, but two guys at the top there. Fantastic. Mark Giordano, also very strong as well, about 50 points on the season, 30 assists, and he's a defenseman, not an up-and-comer or anything, a nice veteran, though, leading the way, 50 points in the season. I mean, that's pretty good. And he's a veteran. He's 2 years older than Ryan Suter, but you got to have some veterans, and he's a nice, strong one for them. Kari Ramo is also a decent goalie, but Backstrom's going to be in net against the Wild, though. You know they got to do that, right, to try to screw around with the Wild and hopefully try to get near 500 are the Flames. Ultimately, I like the Flames. They're my second favorite team in the NHL. I'm not rooting for Nicholas Backstrom or anything, though. He's been a cap hit for the Wild for many years, so nothing personal against you, Nicholas, but I'd like to beat you in this game. I think the Wild absolutely need to win the game. Obviously, Kari Ramo, though, has been out with a torn ACL, and that's mainly why Nicholas Backstrom's in there, to be at least the backup for the Flames for the remainder of the season. I mean, they had to have somebody in there, an NHL goalie, so why not? It is what it is. I think the Wild could and should beat the Flames. The Nicholas Backstrom factor is dangerous, and of course the scores. The Flames absolutely can score, and that's one of the reasons why they made things very interesting. February the 17th, with all these talented young guys, and of course the veterans as well, who are very good. Yeah, Yuri Hidler and others. I keep bouncing around with this one. You'd think I'd have a black and white prediction, but I'm having a hell of a time with it. The Wild's play at home has not been good. You know, out of the next couple of games here, this one might be most likely the loss, even though you think it's the most likely win, considering they're the worst team right now on the 4-game schedule here. Just to be safe, I suppose, I'm going to... I'm going to pick a 3-2... No... I'm going to pick a 3-2 like shootout type of loss. The Wild will get a point out of the game. but they'll shootout or overtime. It'll go to overtime. We won't get to the shootout. We'd kill Backstrom in the shootout. But, Backstrom in the shootout, good night. But then again, they have those good scores. I think they'll win in overtime, the Flames. I'm going to go 3-2 Flames in overtime. The Wild will get a point, though, to at least kind of hang into the playoff race and everything. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of worried about this game. I think Backstrom's going to have a strong game. I hope he doesn't, but I think he will. But the next couple of games, I think, are going to be good for the Wild, even though they're tough opponents and everything. Saturday, March the 26th, the Wild head to Colorado. Head-to-head matchup, baby, for that 8th seed. That's that big, big battle here, the battle to the finish here. The Wild and the Calgary Flames, Varlamov versus Dubnyk. All these stars, Nathan MacKinnon, up-and-coming stud for the Calgary. Why am I calling him Calgary? The Colorado Avalanche. They have all these Landeskog, all these troublemakers and such. Landeskog, that guy. Though I believe he's suspended right now, so maybe we won't have to worry about him. Jerome McGinley's always been a Wild killer. McLeod's a good player. Cody McLeod, all these young players, these veterans, all that. But the Wild's history against this Colorado team for a while has been pretty good. It's been bouncy bounce during the course of this season, though. We lost in overtime December the 7th. We beat them in a shutout December the 5th, so it's all over the place. Minnesota beat Colorado 5-4 in a crazy game early on. Dubnyk giving up a lot of goals in that game, but the Wild still win the game 5-4. And then a 6-3 crazy performance March the 1st. I picked the Wild to win this one in Colorado, believe it or not. It's not going to be easy, but the Wild can do it. I will pick a 4-3 victory for the Minnesota Wild over the Colorado Avalanche in a very emotional, very frustrating, very anger-driven game. Might even go to the shootout or overtime, but ultimately the Wild will win the game. Nathan MacKinnon's day-to-day with a knee injury as of right now, but it's day-to-day, so don't be surprised to see him in the lineup. Matt Duchene, same thing, knee injury day-to-day. So there you go. It's going to be very interesting to see how things turn out between these teams. I will go with a 4-3 victory in an emotional battle and a Wild victory. I think the Wild are the better team. I think they're more stable than the Avalanche, as unstable as the Wild have been. 4-3 Minnesota. The most likely guy to score in the Calgary game is going to be Charlie Coyle. He's been so quiet of late. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with Coyle for the Calgary game. I'm going to go with Nino Niederreiter for the Colorado Avalanche. Nino Niederreiter for the Colorado Avalanche, most likely guy to score in the game. Chicago Blackhawks come to Minnesota Tuesday, March the 29th. I think the Wild are gonna sweep the season series over the Blackhawks, and it's not because we're better than them, but I think we're going to sweep the season series, even though the Blackhawks will probably come in determined. There's something about the Wild against the Blackhawks this time of year, right? March. Not late April or May, but March. I think the Wild will win the game in a very emotional performance. I think the scoring will be fairly high for the Wild. 4-2 victory for Minnesota. Most likely guy to score, Erik Haula. Patrick Kane will score in the game because he always does. He always scores against the Wild. And why wouldn't you just die to have Jarmelson on the Wild? Wouldn't that be great? Corey Crawford, I'm not sure if he's going to be in net or what the deal is. He's been day-to-day with an upper body injury. Don't be surprised to see Darling in there. Again, keep Crawford rested and ready for the postseason, as the Blackhawks will be chasing the cup once again. I hope they don't get it, and I don't think they will this year. I don't think so, but I didn't think the Blackhawks had a stone's chance last year, but they did. Wild win 4-2 over the Blackhawks, and Erik Haula, the most likely guy to score in that game. And I do think Haula will get an assist at some point in the Calgary or Colorado game, and don't be surprised to see him keep racking up the goals as well. He's just been absolutely great. Wrap up the month of March, might as well do it, regardless if I'm going to record between now and then or not. Thursday, March 31st, Wild host the Ottawa Senators. Craig Anderson and the Ottawa Senators, the Wild history against them has been all over the place. The Wild got a point against them last week with Craig Anderson in net. Will it be Andrew Hammond this time around? Will it be Anderson? I have no idea. It doesn't really matter ultimately, though I think the Wild are more likely to beat Hamburglar than they are to beat the Ottawa. They are to beat Craig Anderson. I hope it's Hammond for that sake, I suppose. Dion Phaneuf, they have some nice players. They really do. And Carlson, obviously, like I talked about last time around. Just think about that defensive pairing. Wow, unbelievable. Just score city. Hoffman's obviously one of the best scorers on this club. Lots of talent on the Ottawa Senators. They're fighting for a playoff seed that's probably, they're not going to make it this year. They're too far down. I think the Wild will win the game it'll be a 4-3 overtime victory or shootout victory over the Ottawa Senators. And I will pick the most likely guy to score in that one. Most likely guy to score against the Ottawa Senators is going to be Jason Zucker. Don't know why I'm coming up with that one. It's just a feeling. Just a feeling. I think Jason Zucker is the most likely guy to score in the Ottawa Senators game. Don't be surprised to see Darcy Kemper. I'm going to think, I have a feeling Darcy Kemper will be in net against the Ottawa Senators, but I'm probably wrong. Dubnyk will be in net against Chicago and Colorado, most likely. And probably tonight, too. You're going to see mostly Dubnyk here, but maybe Darcy will sneak in against the Ottawa Senators, in my humble opinion, depending on how things are going for Devan Dubnyk. If he keeps playing as well as he is, he'll play all four, and it'll be like, the hell with all that. So let's kind of bounce around a little bit here. Justin Tuck and others out there. Justin Tuck of Boston College. See, that's where the confusion comes in. You get Boston University and such with Greenway and such. Justin Tuck finishing with 3 points more than last season, and now he'll be playing on Boston College in the NCAA tournament. They're one of the unranked because they only show the top 4 teams in the country. You have Quinnipiac, number 1 again. They're still chasing their first national championship. Can you believe that? How many times Quinnipiac's been number 1 in college hockey? You know, for that reason, and because I hate most of these other teams, freaking Michigan beat the Gophers the other night. God, and they're in. Pardon me, I almost dropped an F-bomb there. But, Justin Tuck, 15 goals, 16 assists, and 31 points, 37 games, blah, blah, blah. Boston College, I don't think they're going to compete for a championship, but you never know. They're always kind of in it, you know. Boston University didn't make it, and they went all the way last year. Providence, 4th in the country, defending national champions. Providence, much stronger than last year. Last year, they were one of the unranked clubs. In fact, they were the worst team in the tournament, and apparently they would not have made the tournament had the Gophers not beaten Michigan. Michigan would have been in, and Providence would have been out. That's kind of interesting how that turns out. But as we like to say, it is what it is. Joel Eriksson-Ek, I should say, he sustained an injury in early February where his skate got kind of caught with another skate and he kind of turned his ankle. It looked kind of bad. And he hasn't played since. That sucks. Olofsson also in the Iowa Wild system. I think he was going to be a nice defenseman in this league, and he played very well under Torchetti, really starting to rack up the points when Torchetti took over that club and he started to kind of get in his groove. Gustav Olofsson's been unavailable for a while. He's been stuck at only 52 games on the season with the Iowa Wild for the longest time, unfortunately. Notre Dame will be they'll be playing against those Michigan Wolverines, the Big Ten champion Wolverines, apparently. Big Ten champion regular season Gophers, tournament champion Wolverines this time around, unfortunately. They will play against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and of course, Mr. Mario Lucia, Super Mario Lucia, who again, like I've mentioned, had been having kind of a down season. I believe it's his senior year by now, 2011 pick by the Minnesota Wild. Of course, the son of the Don Lucia. 4th season already with Notre Dame, wow, in the Hockey East. Only 24 points, but he's played less games, to be fair, but his goal scoring significantly down. He had 21 goals last year, 2 versus only 11 assists. Definitely more of a goal scorer than a passer. A left winger, ultimately, that's usually how left wings are. They score more goals than assists, ultimately. They're more just snipers. The Plymouth, Minnesota native, Mario Lucia, hopefully he'll be signing with the Minnesota Wild this summer. A entry-level contract, as they say, where maybe he'll be starting off with the Iowa Wild, most likely, and go from there, hope for the best. But he'll be playing against the Michigan Wolverines in the NCAA tournament, 8 less points than last year, and it's a very strong junior season with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Yes. Quinnipiac again, number 1 overall in the country. They'll be playing Rochester International in the first round. Watch Rochester International win. Just watch, and then win the whole thing. Like years ago when the Gophers were number 1 in the country, and they lost to frickin' Yale. And Yale went all the way and won the national championship. Go figure. Well, since their first national championship performance, Yale returns to the NCAA tournament. They're playing Mass Lowell. Providence, of course, playing the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs, who defeated the Gophers in the first round last year with a very weak, just a very weak performance by the Gophers, and they barely made the tournament last year, just like Michigan this year. All that good stuff. They'll be playing against the defending national champs. I'm pretty sure Providence will win that one, but who knows? Yeah, it's just 2 years ago, the Gophers were number one in the country, and they went all the way and lost to the frickin' Union bull crap. I was so mad about that. I was pissed off about that. And, of course, you get former WCHA team St. Cloud State, number 2 in the country, playing Ferris State. I don't think St. Cloud State's going to ever win a national championship. And Boston U is in the tournament, pardon me. I was like, getting lost here. They're playing Denver in the first round. That's where Greenway is with the Wild system and all. They're in the tournament as well. Boston University made the national championship game last year, lost a heartbreaker to Providence when the goalie basically dropped the puck and things kind of went the way they did. It was kind of a heartbreaker, and you felt bad for the poor kid. But again, you got to hang on to the damn puck. You don't want to be a jerk about it, but you gotta. Jordan Greenway, by the way, left winger, big tough guy, just a wonderful scorer for that Boston University team. Ferris State's in there again. They're always in there, but they always lose in the first round. They just kind of barely make it. Only a freshman year so far for Jordan Greenway, and 25 points, 20 assists on the season. I talked about him before. Boston U, I believe, has another. It's one of these two Boston clubs has one other Wild prospect, which is escaping me at this stage. I do apologize. Come back to that at some point later, I suppose. Oh, man. Harvard and Boston College, that's where Alex Tuck is playing against they're playing against Harvard, the other super rich school. You got 2 Ivy League schools. In fact, I think Quinnipiac might even be an Ivy League school. North Dakota hosting Northeastern. Northeastern. 3rd seed in the whole tournament. Notre Dame, Michigan, I already mentioned that. Boston U and Denver. The Denver Pioneers once again in the tournament. Who do I think is going to win this whole thing? I'm going to root for Quinnipiac just because. I'd rather see, you hate those Eastern Conference teams, or East Coast, those rich East Coast teams in a sense. You hate to see them go all the way and win, but I'm not cheering for North Dakota or St. Cloud State. I'm sorry. And Providence already won. Minnesota Duluth won one recently, even though I kind of like them, but I hate them for beating us last year. There's always one of those swanky East Coast rich schools that's in there, like, Boston University. They always get there. Hopefully for Quinnipiac's sake, they finally get it done this year. I mean, they've been there so many times, and they have no championships. So go get them, just like poor New Hampshire. I feel bad for New Hampshire, too. Remember the Gophers kicked their butts back in 2003. I didn't feel bad for them that year, but every other year I did. When Maine took them out in overtime, that was a heartbreaker. Poor New Hampshire. Yep, they always seem to get far and then they collapse. That's New Hampshire. And Quinnipiac, same thing. Last year, losing 4-0. Heartbreaker. I'm glad Union hasn't come back, though. Ugh, I'll never forgive that team. I'm such a bad guy, aren't I? I'm just terrible. As for the Iowa Wild, there's really nothing much to say. Jordan Schrader was doing well when he was there, and that's about it. Most of the other guys, Bursky and others, it's been pretty quiet over there, and of course Olsen's been out for a while. Steve McCulloch has been on the Wild roster, but hasn't been in net active, hasn't been starting in net or played in a game so far. He's been kind of up and down, replacing Kemper and such. Dubnyk was injured for a little bit, so McCulloch eventually, I think he'll be on the Wild at some point. But he's been pretty strong in Iowa, but he did get shelled once, pretty bad, giving up 5 goals in a game about a week ago for the Iowa Wild. So, it happens. You have bad games here and there. Ultimately, go Quinnipiac, though, when it comes to the NCAA tournament and the NCAA hockey tournament. I hope Quinnipiac finally gets it done. I wouldn't mind seeing Yale do it again, or maybe even Harvard. But then again, Harvard, why would I cheer for Harvard? They beat the Gophers in 1989 in the Civic Center National Championship game. Heartbreaker, so I can't cheer for them either. Wisconsin recently fired their coach, as Wisconsin has just fallen off the face of the earth. I mean, you think the Gophers are a mess? And I do think they're a mess. I think they're very disappointing the last 2 years. Yes, you go through transition periods and such. Even like Louisville in the NCAA basketball tournament. I can't believe they're not in there, but I suppose there's a couple of distractions going on with that program right now. Yeah, if you care to look it up, go ahead. I don't need to talk about it. Wisconsin just such a mess. They ended up firing their coach. They're starting over, I guess. Hard to believe the Wisconsin Badgers are as down as they are, but I suppose I'm not too sad about it. Ultimately, I'd rather see the Gophers succeed than the Wisconsin Badgers. Ultimately, is this it for Don Lucia? He's in the final year of his contract. Odds are he's either going to walk without an extension, walk/retire or whatever, or they'll give him an extension. My personal opinion, and if you're listening to the show, you'd probably like to hear it, just because, even though you may or may not agree with it, I think it's time for Don Lucia to step away. I think it's time for the Gophers to get some new blood to run the program as the head coach / recruiter, all that good stuff. I don't have anybody in mind, but there are a lot of young, talented coaches out there that would probably love to come to the Minnesota Gophers. Just like Don Lucia was one of the young, talented coaches out there when it was time for Doug Woog to go back in 1999. And we got Don Lucia in here, the coach of the Colorado College, the Bears, the Colorado College over there. Ultimately, we were all excited about getting him, and he was fantastic for quite a while. But I think it's time. I just get the vibe that it's time. There was something different. You just didn't get this team is ready to win a national championship feeling. And the way they went into that championship game a couple of years ago, it was unbelievable. And yes, they ran into a buzzsaw and all that. But the Gophers just did the preparation and all wasn't the same like it used to be. You just didn't get the vibe. You don't get the vibe like this team is going to win a national championship again under Don Lucia. Just something's missing. You need new blood, just a whole new feeling. And hope for the best. Get some strong recruits in here. Not that there aren't, but at the same time, it's a struggle, ultimately. I'm ready for Lucia to move on. Maybe my opinion doesn't matter. And ultimately, it probably kind of doesn't. But before we sign off, though, you have a couple prospects on this Gopher team, both defensemen that have been draft picks by the Wild the past 2 years. Nick Steeler was taken in the 2011 draft. That's already been that long. He was a transfer from Nebraska, Omaha. And he more than likely is going to sign with the Wild in the offseason. He's already he's 22 years old. I thought he was 24. I'm thinking of somebody else. 22 years old. So he's at that age where he's Mike Riley's age. So maybe it's time to get at least to the Iowa Wild. Played 2 years at the Nebraska Omaha. More of a stay-at-home defenseman. Kind of a single point to finally got the double digits this year. All assists, 10 assists for Nick Steeler. But a stay-at-home anchor type defenseman. I think the Wild could definitely use, ultimately. He could ultimately replace a Nate Prosser long-term, I think. Be at least a stay-at-home type of guy, a 6th, 7th defenseman, maybe 5th. Who knows? You get the idea. But a nice, physical, strong guy who can play some tough defense for the Minnesota Wild. That would be great. He'll at least get in the Iowa Wild system and then go from there and hope for the best, ultimately. And then you have Nick Static, also from Lakeville, who's only a freshman. He's only 18 years old still, so he's got a long career ahead of him. He won't be on the Wild anytime soon, but it's cool to see him developing on the Minnesota Gophers right now. If Don Lucia comes back, I'm not going to get all mad. Trust me. Don't worry. I'm not going to. It's Jack Static. I apologize. Not Nick Static. I'm getting guys all mixed up, and I apologize. You got all these names in front of you. But yeah, only 18 years old, Jack Static, ultimately. Only 5 assists on the season, but only 15 games. Being a freshman, did not see a whole lot of action. 7th round pick in 2015. Another 7th round pick. Another one. And that's one area, again, where you got to credit Chuck Fletcher. He hits in the 7th round. Whatever it is, Grayovac is probably an NHL fourth-line center. Erik Haula is more than an NHL fourth-line center. He's a second or third-line center. And if he keeps developing, maybe he's even top. But I don't know about that. I don't know if he's a top 6 forward, but he's at least a very, very, very good third-line center in the National Hockey League. So hopefully Jack Static of Lakeville can continue to develop down in the Gophers. Small sample size this year. Hopefully you can continue to develop. Only 15 games with the Gophers as a freshman. So limited action so far. We'll see how he develops in his sophomore year next year, whether Don Lucia is back or not. And again, it ain't going to kill me if Don Lucia gets an extension. He is a good coach. It's just what would it be like with a new vibe? Would it be better? Just the thought process, because it's gotten kind of stale with the Gopher program. He's been there a long time. Sometimes it's just time to move on. I mean, he's been there for 17 years. That's a long time. That's not a joke. 17 years is a long time. And again, like when he first got here, it was so exciting. He was so awesome, and he was so good. And I want that feeling again, that up-and-comer. It's like with the Colorado, when he came here from the Colorado College, and he was just in his early 40s, and he's just a stud of a coach. But again, now it's been many years now, so it is what it is. We'll see what happens. So with that, we'll wrap things up. Fun. I like getting into the prospects, talking about them a bit. I'm not an expert. I'm going to admit that, but you don't really get a whole lot of conversation about these guys and other shows out there. On some shows you do, you get some, and other shows you don't. But hey, you listen to Brave the Wild to talk hockey, talk Minnesota Wild, and maybe throw in a little college hockey here because things are going on now. You got the tournament starting, and the Gophers situation is kind of at a crossroads, I think. So it's interesting conversation, and it's worthy of from at least generating some opinions out there. You got some thoughts out there about the Gophers, about the Wild, all that, the NCAA tournament, the prospects, Jordan Greenway, guys like that, Alex Tuck, any of them, Mario Lucia, Eriksson Ek, all those guys. Post on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Minnesota, /BraveTheWild.Minnesota. Facebook.com/BraveTheWild.Minnesota. Pardon me, I didn't want to screw that up. Yes, it's goofy and mixed up, but I should have just put MN, but I did what I did. I apologize for that. For Twitter, @BraveTheWild, @BraveTheWild. Thank you to those of you in thank you to those of you in Australia. There's at least one out there that listens in Australia, and I will obviously, Vince Germano listens too, and I think Tanae Brown in New Zealand listens. Just thank you guys so much. And Mr. Allen over there who emailed or messaged me on Facebook not that long ago. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And those of you here in Minnesota and in other states, Iowa, South Dakota, North Dakota, whatever, Canada, give me a shout out on the Facebook page. Say hello. Also, give Brave the Wild a positive rating on iTunes. It'd be greatly appreciated. And I thank you very much and give you a star rating on the show and everything. Give you a shout out, give you a big thank you, all that. So, again, thank you so much for your listenership. We'll talk to you soon. We'll hopefully have some more positive things to talk about next week. Until then, do take care.